Hey, Susan. All right. Hi, Susan. Um, I apparently changed the settings so that anyone can just come up, which is not the best. I was trying to invite a buddy of mine up. I think, here he is. Oh, yeah. Hey, buddy, can you hear me or no?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, Oregon Bobcat. Hi, bud. All right. Um, there must be a setting on here where anybody can just come in and do whatever.
I would assume so.
Yeah, that's not the
You have to
best.
you have to moderate every time someone wants to join right now.
I guess. I mean, I just accepted you, but in the last time we just did it a minute ago, there was just like random people coming up, and I don't know how to stop that from happening.
It got pretty weird pretty fast, didn't it?
It did. It got real weird real quickly. Susan wasn't here for it. Susan, I tried at 8 o'clock on the dot, and apparently people can just hop on in and say whatever they like. And one gal just came on and sang a couple words and then left.
Yeah.
Oh
And
man.
then somebody else was in with like a really interesting looking mask.
Yeah. Yeah, some kind of filter. And it could happen again. That's the exciting part. It could happen here.
This is just we're just kind of living in the Mad Max Thunderdome right now.
That's exactly what it felt like. Oh boy. I don't need the hat. There's a little glare. I hope it's not a distraction.
Yeah, buddy, I don't feel bad because I just went to the barber today to get like a buzz, and I was sitting in the chair. I was just like, "There's at this point, like they can already see what I need. Like, there's not like I'm gonna get a little here, a little here." It was just like I just a shorter version of what I have now. And just
Sure.
like run the attachment that's like two over my whole head, and that's good.
Yeah, and I think I mean I haven't been to a barber obviously in 25 years. I think it'd be kind of fun just to go sit down at one just to see their reaction.
Well, I have a buddy who like he just gets like his beard trimmed and stuff. And it's just more of like a nice, bi-weekly ritual. He
Yeah.
knows his barber real well. It's like a good friend at this point, which is kind of funny because he's just like I don't even get a haircut. I just get the beard trim and just sort of like shoot the breeze.
Yeah. I think that's nice, right? A lot of people like
Yeah,
barbershops for that reason.
yeah.
And it's relaxing, right? It's kind of like getting a manicure or something, a pedicure.
Except I don't think those are relaxing though. That's a terrible analogy because
Uh,
it's not a relaxing event. Like yours was worse than mine,
yeah.
but
Mine was
I also didn't feel like it was very relaxing. The cuticle pushing, that did not feel good.
yeah, it got really funny really quickly though.
Yeah.
We had a good laugh. She was like, "This is going to hurt a little bit," and I was like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "You got a little something on your toe that I'm going to cut off."
She did. She was true to her word.
She was, and in my head, I'm like, "Are you a surgeon? Like, do you know
Yeah.
how to do this?" No, I'm just going to cut
No.
it. It's
Just
gonna.
that quiet confidence. She
You
just
remember?
dove
I was
right
like,
in.
and I said to her, "Is it going to hurt?" And she was like, "Yeah."
Did they have the little fish? I don't remember if that place that we went to had the little fish that you put your feet in, where they like feed, I'm talking about off your dead skin. Have you seen that?
No, is that for real? That's a really
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, like some of these like, spas and stuff that you go to, like they have like ponds of fish in there that eat your dead skin. And it's the thing. They like swarm over your feet.
That sounds horrible to me. But I guess I want to try to raise this up somehow. Oh, maybe it's this one. This one looks promising. There we go. I think you have to have the camera a little higher.
Are you telling me or you?
Oh, man.
I know. I'm in the same boat, man. I'm like, just whatever I can do. Any little any edge I can
Yeah.
have.
I do like the idea of a barber. The pedicure would have been fun if I didn't have like a growth that needed to be removed from my toe. It was relaxing up to that point.
Really? It was okay. I was sort of hoping it would be more like a foot massage. You know?
Next time I would go with a massage. Do I still have an echo, Gabe?
No.
Oh, good.
No, it just was an echo when I was on like the weird, Mad Max version of this the first time.
I don't know what I pushed that just said, "Come on in, everybody."
Just come in and do your thing.
Yeah. Can you see my sign, Gabe?
Yeah, well, it's backwards, but I can see it. I can read it. It's awesome.
I felt that I needed to make this. Churches today are all the same. Trying to find a real church with servants of the Lord is impossible. Oh man, I don't know who neurodivergent is, but you're in the right place. This is a church for people who've had enough of church, who are fed up with church. Impossible. Yeah, I get it. Neuro, you are right on. I hope you could stick around for a little while. The whole reason we felt the need to make this is for folks that are kind of done with church, but I'll explain that as we go. The sign is backwards. I had Ken on a couple of weeks ago, and he said, as Ken would, with a very straight face, you just need to turn it upside down. And it was like there was a split second where I was like, that's not going to work. Like I knew he was joking, but it was risky. It was the first time I was on live, and I didn't want to be like,
yeah,
obviously that's not the answer, Ken. And but he knew it wasn't the answer.
He did. He knew. It's just eyeballs, not cameras.
Just flip it upside down. And I said to him, I was like, it's not upside down. It's like we got like an ambulance situation in the rear view mirror. And he was like, I know. And then I felt
ambulance situation.
Yeah.
Like an alert, like a warning on the side view mirror.
Oh, they have like when you ambulance on the front of ambulance, it says ambulance, but it's like backwards. So you can in the rear view mirror, you can see that it says ambulance.
Is that right?
I think so. Maybe not in the States. Maybe I saw that in some other part of the world.
That's interesting. No, you'd know better than I would, because I'm sure you've seen many an ambulance pull up to a house, right?
I have as recently as yesterday, I think it was. So I didn't confirm, but I thought I remember seeing an ambulance like when I was younger, and it was written all crooked. And then someone said, that's so that people could see it. Yeah, Susan's here. She said that's true. Susan was on last week on the live. I'm still obviously learning this. And as you could tell by the fact that everyone just piled in there a minute ago, that would have been kind of fun. I panicked. I got nervous and just hit end. I was like, oh, I did something wrong, and so I just canceled it. So I made this sign because I was like, all right, we're doing this. It's going to be official. But it's handwritten. I didn't even print it. It's crooked, and it's backwards. It's backwards and reversed. But that's my attempt at making this official. That's all the money we're going to spend on this church. That and this microphone that I had to buy because I lost my phone, and I got a refurbished phone, and the speaker, the microphone doesn't work very well.
You have like a burner phone that you're working from?
Not a burner phone. I got it on Amazon, like a refurb. I lost my phone when we traveled, when we were overseas. I left it. I know, and it was like a lot of money, but I left it in a taxi cab, and never to be seen again. So when I got home, I was like, I looked at Apple, and they're $1,200 or something, and then I found one for $200, refurbished, 5 years old on Amazon. But you pay for what you get. It doesn't work very well. Um, so, where to begin? This began with a conversation with my family and your family 3 years ago or something like that. The idea for this.
Yeah.
And at the time, we were both not attending the church for different reasons. And we had the conversation on a very fun night that I'll always remember as long as my memory stays intact. And the conversation was essentially like, I wish we could just make a church for kind of like for those of us who have left church. And that stuck with me. I obviously took that and ran with it. It didn't start as a church. It started as the conversation that I had was 3 years ago, and I know Susan heard this last week, but 3 years ago I was visiting with a patient in August of 2022, and he said that I have to ask in my initial assessment for my job, I have to ask what people's religious background is, and this guy was like, I'm Lutheran or Baptist or something like that. It's his background, but he's like, I don't go to church anymore, and I was like, that's interesting. Why not? What made you walk out? And he said they don't teach the Bible anymore. That was his reasoning for why he felt it was no longer made any sense for him to go to church. He's like, it's pointless because they don't teach the Bible. And
it's not unusual, not unusual complaint.
That was the very first conversation that has led to this 3 years ago. And he said, he was like, he said to me, and I remember the visit like it was yesterday. He said, you could go to a church for 10 years and not know the Bible any better than when you started.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's heavy, but
depressing. Yeah,
it was. And that's not the case with every church. He just he felt that in general. I'm sure there are churches where that's not true, hopefully.
For sure.
But that was his take. And then the conversation with him, he just said, I don't think anybody reads the Bible. And I said, well, why would people that don't go to church read the Bible? And he said, no, I don't think anybody reads the Bible, like, period, like even church-going Christians. And I said, how many do you think read out of 100? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, probably 10, 20? He was like, I think it's less than that. And I remember asking you and Ken that, like a few months later, I was in Ohio, and I asked you guys the same question. And I don't remember what your answers were, but you and Ken both kind of took a guess, like 10 or 20 out of 100.
Yeah, it was probably like, lower than expectations, just when you think about like what the average is, but it was even worse, wasn't it? I think it ended up being like lower than what we even thought it was.
Yeah, I did. I asked people like over the course of 2.5 years, and I don't say this judgmentally. I think like the first time I mentioned this, it sounded like I was a holier than thou. Like, shame on everybody that doesn't read their Bible. I don't read it as often as I should or would like to. There's like, it's hard for a whole lot of reasons. Just the discipline of doing anything with any regularity is a challenge, I think.
Yeah.
But I heard his frustration, and I was kind of like, well, I'll ask. So over like 2.5 years, and I always asked people that I knew fairly well. Like I never asked like, do you read your Bible with any degree of regularity? I just asked church-going Christians, do you read your Bible with any degree of regularity? And I asked 127 people over the course of 2.5 years. And 5 of them said yes.
Oh,
5 of them. I know. Isn't that crazy? And maybe other people would get better numbers. But I had 5 people that said yes out of 127, which it's a smaller percentage than I would have thought. But it's not so much that it's like a judgment thing, or it makes me like it's sad or heartbreaking. It makes sense of why we are where we are now.
Yeah.
Like this, like Christian nationalism can flourish as long as people are biblically illiterate, which is why when you guys sent me that message 2 weeks ago or something,
yeah,
it was so profound to me. The message was essentially, I forget who it was, but it was something like biblical literacy is a tool for liberation. Like I wish I could look it up. I probably can. I wanted to try to find it. I wanted to try to find it
I
because it
can't
was
remember what it was too. It was something along those lines. It was like biblical literacy is like a tool to free the masses or something, or like it was very like revolutionary in nature.
I found it. I found it. Are you still there?
Yep.
Um, Biblical literacy is an act of political resistance.
That's awesome.
It
Yeah.
was so good, and there was more to that post than that. But you guys sent me that on a Wednesday morning, like before I was going to try live for the first time, and I was kind of like, yes. So
Kind of felt inspired.
I was just like, this is spot on. It almost felt like validation, like for the reason that we're trying to do this. Like,
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
this is like, yes, like that's what we've been trying to say. The very first videos I did, I made this like read the Bible 3 page on Instagram,
Yeah.
just to try to like give some people some pointers on how to read. Like, hey, if you're like, I want to try reading, but I don't know how or where to start or what to do, it's just like a 101. Here's how to read the Bible. And
Right.
I made like 9 or 10 videos on read the Bible 3, just like, here's how you can read. And that came from that first conversation with that guy 3 years ago. And it wasn't just
That's awesome, man.
that conversation. It was sort of like that conversation coupled with, as you're seeing, like people try to pitch that empathy is toxic or sinful.
Right.
But there's been a couple books written in the last year, I think they've been published on toxic empathy or the sin of empathy. Those are the titles of the books, I think. Which is basically like the idea is, be careful how empathetic you are. Like there is such a thing as overly empathetic. You have to kind of guard and use your empathy wisely. It can be sinful or it can be toxic, and it can be bad. Yeah. And I'm like, that message sells unless you have ever read one of the Gospels. Like if you're familiar with the gospel, then, and someone tries to inform you, tries to convince you that empathy is toxic or sinful, you're going to be like, yeah, that's not the case, because I've read the story of Jesus's life before. I've read one of the Gospels before, or I'm familiar with the gospel, and empathy is a huge part of his ministry, who he is and how he interacts.
Absolutely. Like moment after moment of empathy without any, like request for remittance. There was no like expectation of response in kind. It was just empathy, support without that expectation.
Yeah. So I from the Read the Bible 3 project, which took me like a month or something like that. And this has all happened in the last year. I got social media a year ago. So I still don't, obviously I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know how to do it. I think, which is fine. I was kind of happy that I successfully avoided social media for 15 years.
I know. You were like completely just blacked out, totally not connected at all, and then suddenly just jumped in as deeply as you could.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, well, if I have to have it, I might as well try to do something productive with it. And the more that I hear people's stories, because that sort of like that conversation with that guy led me to ask more questions. And I know I mentioned this last week, but when I do my initial assessment for new patients that I see, I'm a hospice chaplain, if anybody's new here or doesn't know me. When I do my initial assessment for my job, I have to ask the question, like, what is your religious background? Which is a super annoying thing to me. Like, I didn't have to ask that in Chicago ever. For the 12 years that I did this there, there was a line that said, religion, but I didn't have to put anything on that line in order to go to the next screen.
Mm-hmm.
Here, it's blue. I have to put something on that line in order to go to the next screen. So I'm like forced to ask the question, even if it doesn't come up organically in conversation, which I don't.
It's never really going to just be not something that doesn't feel forced,
It was horribly forced. Like, we're just talking about like end of life and hospice stuff and doing my visit, and then I've got to be like, what denomination are you? Not my favorite. But now, in retrospect, I'm glad I'm forced to ask, because I ask, and people are like, well, I grew up Catholic, but I haven't gone in 30 years, or I grew up Baptist, but I left 10 years ago, or I haven't been to church in 12 years, or whatever it is. And then I get to ask why. Why is that the case? Like, why, if you don't mind my asking, what made you
Right.
stop going? And the responses have been incredible to me, incredibly informative to me. And so I sort of started this as like, hey, I'll just share the responses that I heard. And maybe some pastors or churches will
Take notice and
take notice, be like, yeah, here's some reasons that people don't go,
right.
and maybe make some adjustments. And then it just sort of went from there to like, no, let's try to make a place. Let's try to take in all these reasons that people left, all the reasons that I got, all the answers that I got for why people left. I was kind of like, is that a necessary part of the church? Like, should it be that way? Should people be leaving for this reason or that reason or the other reason? And I was kind of became clear to me, like, no, the church, that shouldn't happen in the church. I don't think, like, according to how the church should function or should operate, I don't think that should be an issue. And that was kind of like the case with all of them. I'm like, in the church that Jesus talked about, or the first century church, like the original church, I don't think would have had the problems that many people gave for why they don't go anymore.
Yeah, totally agree.
It was
Because there was no expectation of like an exclusive like declaration. You know, there was no expectation of like you have to like publicly declare your sort of like allegiance or membership to this. It was like just sort of part of the community, I feel like. And it was even less about like a building and more about more of like community connection and resources and like shared support.
Yeah. I mean, especially in the very beginning, in Acts 1 and 2, it's just like nobody has nobody's possessions are their own.
Right.
They're all shared, which is pretty radical.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, there was no buildings. Like a lot of people left for some sort of like financial reason. Like I talked to somebody a week ago that was like, I tried to go to church for the first time in 5 years, and the whole entire sermon was about tithing. And they were like, yeah, I'm not going to go back there. It just felt like maybe it was bad timing. Maybe they just happened to go. Maybe that church only does one sermon a year on tithing. And
Maybe.
And that's just when this buddy of mine happened to go to church, and he was like, I finally tried. I took my wife and our little one, and we went to church, and it was a 45-minute sermon.
It sucks.
45-minute sermon about how you should give, how you are a heathen, not a Christian, if you're not giving 10% of what you make to this church, was the gist of it. Yeah. And then, like, you see the obvious, like, financial corruption in other areas, right? Like some of these.
100%.
What is his name? Kenneth Copeland, the guy that's like.
Right.
And he's worth like $400 million.
Oh,
so
yeah, absolutely.
He packages it like, because this is how blessed I am because of how well I'm doing things.
Yeah, that's a reflection of like, my success and God's then like blessings, showing that success.
Yeah, and I think he doesn't even like hide it anymore. He's like, I bought a new Learjet for myself because I made $100 million last year, thanks to God and his blessings.
That's crazy.
Just like, it just shows some Breitling watch, like a $30,000 watch. And he's like, wow, this is because of God and because I'm a favorite.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a next level of wealth.
Yeah. And you kind of package it in this prosperity gospel. Like that's the goal. God wants you to be ultra rich. That's what he wants for you more than anything. So it's obviously like, it's theology that you can sell so long as you have a biblically illiterate audience. And so,
there's no verification of what he's saying. There's no, trust but sort of verify. It's just what he says is what we, and then, you're just setting yourself up to be disappointed because everybody's fallible. Everybody messes up, like he's just another, fuck up like the rest of us.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's, I mean, the prosperity gospel in general, like I see it, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I see it in a really hard area because of the work that I do. I have at any given time at least 2 patients who are certain they will be healed because some prophet or somebody told them that.
Oh man.
And that's a situation that I walk into and I'm kind of like, how can I support this family? And they tell me right out of the gate, we need you to join us in expectantly praying for this miracle that's been told to us, that's from God, that we will be healed. And then 3 months later they die, and it's devastating. It's devastating because a loss like that is always hard, but then you have this entire family whose like faith is shaken, or they just walk away from the faith entirely because they
or blame it on the person who died. It's like they didn't have
they lacked
faith. They weren't believers like we were.
Yeah.
And just protect that mindset no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, prosperity gospel is a problem. That was like number 9. I had a list of like 13, and I know you've probably seen that at one time or another in the videos, but I kind of compiled a list of why folks stopped going to church. And I ordered them by like frequency that I heard these responses. So like the number 10 reason was there's no biblical teaching, which is the first reason I heard, if that makes sense. Like that guy that I had the conversation with that said he stopped going to the Bible or stopped going to church because they don't teach the Bible. His reason is reason number 10. There was like 3 other people that told me that over the course of 3 years or 2.5 years of asking these questions. His reason was number 10. So it was not anywhere near the most frequent response. Financial issues, financial corruption, always like preaching about the importance of tithing. Money was like number 4 or something.
Well, I would be curious, like on the tithing piece, I'd be curious if there was like a geographical like aspect to that. Like if there were, that's probably sort of a loaded question, but I almost wonder if that was like across the board or if they felt like that was more like the southern churches, or if it's just everywhere. Like, and I'm not like throwing darts. I'm just more curious, like if where you got responses and if you saw like more, certain places or not at all.
That's a good question. Like, I don't know if you asked the same questions that I asked in Chicago.
I'm asking like you're like a whole company, like you're like a data team. You're like, do you think I have graphs and charts? I don't know.
I don't. I just wrote them down, and I have the 3x5 card still. There is official as my sign. If anybody's new here, I hope you appreciate my sign that I made to make sure that we look official. But yeah, I'm living in the Tulsa land area. It's not very. I came from Chicago. The first 12 years of my career as a hospice chaplain was in the Chicagoland area, which is obviously very diverse, like culturally, religiously. Like I had at any moment I had like Jewish patients and Buddhist patients and Muslim patients and Hindu patients, and it's not really the case here in the heart of the Bible Belt. It's primarily white Christians in this where I live now. Mm-hmm. There is like there's a bit of diversity as far as like denominational background, but the biggest challenge for me since I've moved here has been that more like sort of charismatic Pentecostal, you are going to be healed. Jesus's intention is to heal you from all of your diseases and whatnot.
Right.
And that's been I've had to learn the art of how to handle that situation, because the first time I was in it, I remember it vividly. I walked in and they were like, she's going to be healed. If you don't believe that, we don't want you here. Like, we need you to join us in praying for this healing. Not that it might happen. It was just like, you need to join us.
Did they expect that you would like add to sort of the power of the prayer, or like was it more of just it'll happen with you or without you?
I think it's going to happen. There was no doubt in their minds. It was almost like um, they were concerned that maybe I didn't believe it was going to happen.
Gotcha.
If they didn't want me there, if I wasn't also 100% sure that it was going to happen, which I am not. Like, I don't know. I didn't know that. And so I have to like either leave out of honesty or fake it till you make it. Like just pretend like, oh yeah, definitely.
Right. And then you feel like doubly inauthentic because like not only do you not believe, but you're also like the pastor of the group.
Yes, I'm lying, and when that person dies, it's my fault maybe, or somebody's fault that didn't have proper faith that the healing was going to occur. I saw a video today of just some pastor like screaming some word, and people were coming up, and he was like knocking them over on their forehead. And then like hit him in the head, and they would fall down on the ground. And I was just like, oh boy, I'm going to get these people in however many years when they come onto hospice, and have to try to figure that out. And it makes my job is to try to help, among other things, try to help people prepare for end of life. And you can't prepare folks for the end of life if you can't talk about it, if it's not happening.
Right. Yeah. If death hasn't been accepted yet.
Yes. So yeah, that was like reason number 9, I think. Reason number 10 was there's no Bible in church. Reason number 3 was I don't know. I had like 40 people that gave that response. Like, what made you stop? Like, curious why you stopped going. And they're like, I don't know. So it's not a bit.
It's sort of interesting in and of itself because it kind of implies like it was so like uninspiring. It was so just like kind of a checkbox thing in their lives that like they literally just sort of forgot about it, you know? Like there wasn't some abuse, there wasn't some, or maybe there was, and they just didn't want to talk about it. But like, there's legit, and I've been in that group too, where it's just kind of becomes less of a priority because it's just kind of become more of an obligatory thing that you do on Sundays or Saturday nights if your church is big enough and you've got the weekend like services, and it just becomes that sort of like, yeah, we'll go and we'll make sure and that's not. I don't know. That makes me sound like I don't think that every church is just some, perfunctory kind of thing.
Right.
I think it's just, for me, it came down to feeling like, am I living authentically, or am I just sort of like appeasing someone in my life by going and singing and, hearing a sort of topical sermon and then going home and feeling like, okay, I did my thing, and
I'm in church, and it's like you and I have talked about it. I want to say hi to Princess because we've had some interactions. Hi, Princess.
Hey, Princess.
Yeah, and I saw.
Sorry.
Yeah,
should have said hi.
You don't know Princess, but she's great. She's taught me a lot about. I've joined her live a couple times. She was on the first time I ever joined a live was like a little over a week ago, last Friday night. And she allowed me to go in her live, and I asked some questions that I probably should have known the answer to, but I didn't. I learned a lot. I got the list here, Gabe.
That's awesome.
But I wrote names on the back of the folks that gave me this answer, and some of them I remember, and some of them I don't. But I obviously won't share the names. But this was reason number 13. Reason number 13 was guilt. There was 3 people that gave this answer. They said they stopped going to church because they felt guilt about not going. They got tired of it. So basically they felt guilty when they didn't go. And they got so tired of feeling guilty for not going that they were just like, I quit. I'm tired of feeling guilty. And that one, I could relate to that one a little bit.
100%. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I've had that before, which it doesn't really sound, it was only 3 people gave that. So it was the very bottom of the list. There was other answers that I only got one time, and I didn't include them in the list if they were like a singular experience. Like I forget some examples of somebody who was just like, of why like one person gave, I don't go to church because of like fill in the blank, and I never heard that from anybody else. The list that I made were only for people that I heard the same answer multiple times.
Gotcha.
And I heard
they said it's a pretty good, like, broad group.
Yeah. So I had 3 people that said they stopped going because they felt guilt for not going. They got tired of feeling guilty for not going.
Hmm.
And I was like, that's that one. I have a little bit of that, or I had a little bit of that. Oh, like, oh man, I haven't been to church in a year and I'm not very good.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Number 12 was because the church closed or split or moved.
Which, yeah, I mean, like, I feel like churches are sort of going the way of, like, I don't know, airlines, it feels like where they're just kind of being consolidated or picked up as like a satellite campus, so larger church,
Yeah.
or just to your point, like some of the rural ones maybe just can't stay open because there's just not enough funding or congregants around.
Yeah. And I think so. Yeah, that's a pretty fair reason. I forget. I don't. I have most of them memorized. Number 11 was COVID. Some people.
And
I had 7 people tell me that they stopped going during COVID and just haven't been back.
yeah,
Um,
I mean, and in some ways, like that was kind of our like moment was COVID, like for our like stopping going to church was it wasn't obviously because of COVID, but it was definitely like the the exposure that we felt like we had, like seeing our church react to COVID in a way that just felt really hypocritical, you know. And that was the moment I was like, oh, this is not at all going to be somewhere that I can, be long term and feel good about, like the leadership making decisions because, you know, the moment everybody started getting sick, it was one of those things where it was like, oh, we should probably be, whatever, wearing masks because people are sick. And, I don't want to make this about that, of course, but it was just one of those moments where I felt like, hey, this doesn't feel, in line with empathy.
yes. No, 100%. And you can make it about that if you want. I don't want to put you on the spot, but that's
No, I didn't want to like, if that was like a rabbit trail or whatever, but
no. So it was 7 people gave that reason, and most of it was that it wasn't so much I stopped going during COVID and it wasn't so much I stopped going during COVID and just haven't been back. It was something more closer to this line. Like I stopped going during COVID, and then I watched my church be like, "We're all going to pack in here because we have faith." Uh,
yeah,
so
that's
everybody
exactly right.
come on in and sit on top of each other, and don't wear masks, and don't do anything to take care. And if you have so ingrained in you that the idea of being a Christian and being involved in a church is that we consider others better than ourselves, and we're trying to like look after one another and be cautious. Like I mentioned this to Susan. Susan was on last week, and she's a nurse, and she sort of said the same thing. Like the mask and the distancing, like nobody knew what we were doing in 2020. It was like a time of great uncertainty, but it
Yeah,
seemed like the default caring thing to do was, um, yeah, stay away from people and wear a mask. Not so much for myself, but because
yeah,
you may live with your grandparents or something.
exactly. Or you're like in a grocery store and the person next to you or like, close by is immunocompromised. They've gone through something that would they'd be a lot more susceptible to COVID and the like severity of it. And so like, yeah, it's not about you. You
Right.
are you are in some ways, yes, like temporarily like risk, putting a mask on is maybe not what you want to do, but like at the same time too, you're helping others. People, that's I mean, just the age old adage of being like, what would Jesus do in this situation? And I truly feel like he would be thinking of others first. That was just how he always approached things, was like putting others first. And I
Yeah.
feel like doing that is just absolutely in line with that.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think the other, like the more conservative side sort of pitched, we're not afraid of COVID. Like because we are on Team Jesus, we have no reason to fear.
Right.
That was sort of their approach. From what I gather, I mean, I was in Illinois for all of that, and it just had a very different feel, like than down here. It's obviously more progressive and more, like I said, culturally diverse than here. But when I got here and realized, like, started my role, the same role, still a chaplain here. I don't want to miss a comment. Hi, Katie. I like Katie already. I got to talk with her as well. Quality. Thanks for being here, Katie.
Yeah, it was. Was that like a shocking thing for you, like a devastating thing to have the realization that, oh, we don't really care about others?
It was. It definitely. I mean, I've been in the church long enough to have like observed, big moments where you see someone in leadership go through, a scandal of some sort, and you're like, oh, that's like really awful, but like the church will, soldier on, and your faith in the church was still like my faith in the church was still like totally, intact.
Mm-hmm.
In until that moment where I was like observing a church that I had felt like was following, like they were preaching scripture during the sermons, and like, they were sending money to missionaries around the world, like doing all the things, right? That you're like, this is what a church should do. And so the pastor was very like folksy and kind, and I don't say that like tongue in cheek. Like he was a good guy. He definitely seemed like, he wanted things to go well. But when push came to shove, just because the people who didn't want to like have their personal freedoms infringed upon were the loudest in the room, the
Mm-hmm.
church immediately caved to that, and we're like, yep, that's what we need to focus on and support. And that's where I was like, I am done with this. I can't support a church like this. It's just gonna cave to people, that are this selfish.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That must have been we were we were in Chicago during COVID, and we were part of a church, but at that time, our daughter was just born, like right before COVID. She was born in February of 2020.
Is that right? Man, I kind of forget. Like that's crazy.
So it was like, and we had two other little ones. So we we're not like going to church regularly at that stretch of our life because of just the dynamics of our family. I remember like on more than one occasion we tried to go and like got ready and got the kids dressed and took them to where we were going, and we made it like 10 minutes. We took them to like the kids section and they would give us a little number, like a little sticker, and it would say like H8 to let you know your kid. And then we would get in and get like to the second song of worship section, and they would say H8 like up on the screen. And I was like,
Right.
oh, that's us. So we had to like go get whatever kid out of
Right.
the child care area, and then you're like, well, now we might as well go get the other kid and just go home. So it was like a 10:30 service, and two or three occasions we were out by like 10:50. I'm like, this isn't working. I'll just wait and
Right.
all the time. They were, I think they closed down a lot of them, like during 2020 and into 2021. But we weren't like regular attenders then anyway.
Yeah.
I, my part of my like I didn't have that so much with COVID. I think because it was prior to that I realized like, oh, I see what Christians are doing. Like I got into this when I got into this job, I was kind of like, I'm going to go be a Christian chaplain and try to spread Christ, the message, the gospel of Christ to people at a dark time in their life, like when they're nearing the end of life. That's what I felt my calling was. And it was early on into my career where I realized like, oh, we're the worst. And I didn't know that we
Like this was after you joined as a chaplain, and you suddenly felt like, man, we are like really hypocritical
yeah.
as a.
It was not like within my first year of being a chaplain that I had like the most insufferable 5 patients that I had in the first 2 years of this job all had one common denominator, and that is that they had Bible verses all over their house and quoted them every minute. They would say, "Well, we believe this because it isn't this John this and First Corinthians this," and it's just like
Right.
Bible verse, but just like the most hateful like people that I've ever encountered.
Oh man.
Were all like super Christians. And so I was kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, it was not the company that I worked for was not a faith-based company. So I had like many of the nurses that I worked with and the CNAs and the social workers, like they were religious or um, agnostic or non-church going people. So I'm kind of like, I'm going to try to shine the light and be different. And then we would have these patients together and be like, oh, that's a bummer. they'll be like, "That's Christian." I'm like, "No, it's not. That's too bad." But
So that was their perspective, was just like all of those people who had the Bible verses that they were sharing. They were like, those people are Christian and those people are terrible. Like that's what they equated with Christianity.
yes, and I don't know that they're wrong just based on based on the numbers. Like you and I grew up together, obviously, and we grew up with people like your parents and my parents and other people that we looked to in the generation above us who were Christian.
Yep.
Were also like remarkably selfless and remarkably loving and others centered and kind and generous, and like we grew up, I feel like we grew up with this example of what it means to be a Christian that I think was closer to what I've seen anywhere else in the real world. Like since I've gotten out of there, I'm kind of like,
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like we have to kind of come to grips with the fact that like when many folks think of Christian, it's not a good thing, and they're not wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
I posted it at some point, but I saw there's a doctor. I don't remember. I think it's on TikTok, and he basically said, "I would like to propose an experiment where if I see somebody that has like a cross or something about Jesus or a Bible verse in their bio, and you look at the comments that they leave on other people's
pages and stuff.
Yes, they are the most vile, inhumane, like horrible." So that's what he said. He's like, I think if someone did that research and gathered that data, you would see a pretty significant link between people that have Bible verses in their bio and also just spew hate and racism and misogyny and like all the. I'm like, that's, and I don't think that's
insane. And you're absolutely right. It's like, it's almost like a telling, you're like, I hope I don't see a Bible verse in this person's bio because,
yeah,
I don't want that like acidic, kind of behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the example that he gave, because he's a doctor. And he said, if I see somebody with a Bible verse in their bio, and I look at the comments, you'll probably find things like, we shouldn't be providing Narcan kits to people struggling with addiction because the addiction is their choice and they deserve the outcome. And then you go to the bio, and it's just like follower. I love Jesus, and here's 3 Bible verses. And you're like, good heavens. So it's like, it's obviously frustrating for those of us who are like, can we not maybe get lumped in with them? I remember saying this to nurses in Chicago. I'm just like,
oh, absolutely.
Like we'd be at our team meeting, and they'd be like, yeah, they're very Christian, and I would be like, but we're not all the same, right? And they were always like very kind, like, yeah. I don't know if Princess is still here. Princess, can I ask Princess a question?
Yes, that's a question. Did you see that? I responded while you were.
This is another problem for me.
Okay.
I don't know how to pay attention to the comments. I mean, I do, but if I focus on the comments, like that will be all I do.
I know, which sometimes people do. Just sort of like, all right, throw questions in the chat, whatever. But
Can I invite Princess up here for some reason, just to ask a question? If you don't want to do that, I understand. I won't ask anything personal. It's like like a functional question of TikTok. That's all right. Well, I'll figure it out. But there's a way to make you like a co-moderator.
Me?
I think, or whoever's in the panel. You're in the panel right now.
I can do like modify live settings, invite friends.
Let me see if yeah, you're in there as no, you're not in as a co-host. You're in as a guest of honor. I think I can get in trouble. Like I obviously have no control over what people say in the comments, but I think if people say like horrible things in the comments, I can get in trouble. Does that make sense? I don't know if it's true or not.
Maybe, but that feels like people could just be really like vindictive and just put a bunch of terrible stuff in somebody's live feed that they don't like.
Yes.
That's terrible.
Yes. Oh, there she is. You all know each other in real life. We absolutely do. This is my closest and best friend. Right? We go back farther than I can remember. Certain words flag. So yeah, thanks, Katie. So I think if like there's something I need to do if someone I don't know figure it out, but if someone uses those flag words, I need to like block them or kick them out or something like that. I don't know about this get.
That makes sense.
I've
Do
gotten
they
to the
go
point.
like live settings? Oh.
I think so. I wish I could just like there's a. I've gotten to the point where like I kind of look forward to getting canceled. This is taking a lot out of me. This project. Like
I bet.
there was parts of me that like wanted to like hey finish this project, give the information to a pastor so they can do with it what they would like or nothing. You can just throw it all away. I could be like, hey, I spent 2.5 years talking with people about why they don't go to church, and here's what they said. Maybe you can use it for your church, or maybe take it into consideration, or tell some of your pastor friends this is why people aren't coming. But then I would be done with it, right? I could just like kind of like and go back to being a hospice chaplain. Just go back to doing that full time and be done with this project.
I know, because yeah, I mean, it's definitely like something that it can feel a little bit like, well, there's just so many echo chambers in social media, so why add to the cacophony of noise, you know? But at the same time, too, it's like, I don't know, I also feel torn because I see so much, you know, vitriol and hate and crap, and it's also kind of like, well, can we start to like stem the tide and like add some, you know, some
Yeah.
positivity and some like not even just like positivity for like sort of a Pollyanna like naive perspective, more just I think like positivity to say like let's talk about how like a community of people who are making choices, you know, in a way that's positive can like make a good impact in their communities and in their neighborhoods and families and, you know, friend circles.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of hoped this would be like something I could hand off and be like, this is good food for thought for any pastor that cares enough to be like, here's why people don't go. What can we do differently? What can we do better? Because for me, these reasons shouldn't exist. Like they shouldn't. And some of them are heavy. Like then we talked a little bit last week about reason number two was church hurt. And there was like 30 or 40 people that gave that as their response that they were.
Yeah.
And somebody pointed out this was a good. I learned this from somebody else that calling it church hurt is not doesn't do it justice. Isn't a fair way to use it. It was like trauma or abuse or hurt.
Like church hurt like sort of downplayed it, they were saying.
For sure. And I received that when somebody gave me that not criticism, they gave me that feedback. I was just like, you are absolutely right. I didn't like, hey, no, I'm sticking with the term church hurt. That's what I called it. Like when I made the card the first time I heard it, I put like church hurt because they what it was
yeah, it's like the common term. Yeah.
yes, but it's not accurate. I did have people that were like actually abused in the church on a couple different occasions, and I'm like, that's calling that church hurt is not fair to those
Yeah,
people.
that's a great point.
Yeah. But the first person that gave me that response, I remember that one too. And then there's been, like I said, 30 or 40 people that gave that response since then. But they went through a divorce and they were like super plugged into their church and they were super plugged in with their small group for like 20 years. They had the same small group. And when they got divorced, the small group was very welcoming of the husband to continue to be part of the small group, and the church too. The church was very welcoming of him, and I don't know what happened. Like I wasn't in a position to take sides, but the wife was like, it was very clear that I was no longer welcome at that small group.
And I've heard like I've had some friends who got, you know, divorced as well and were part of churches, and it was honestly the, you know, very similar story of like one spouse just sort of you know, going back into the fold and being part of the church community again, and the other one feeling sort of ostracized in a, way that was almost just this like gradual like ice out, you know.
Yeah. So this lady that I met was just like, I haven't been in 15 years because that's how her church experience ended. Um, so yeah, there was a lot of other people, like church hurt was too broad of a term because some people were like traumatized or abused within the church, and I put that in the same camp
Yeah.
as church hurt. And somebody was just like, I wasn't hurt by the church, I was abused in the church. And I was just like, yeah, that's a really good point, that's not the same thing.
Well, and like just I feel like one more sort of reason why I think it's important for us to question like what we are contributing our time and our resources and our energy and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
our families to, like if there are these types of like peripheral risks, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say indoctrination, but I like, if there's churches that are incorporating politics into their sermons and encouraging their congregants to vote one way or another, then in that sense, I do feel like the concern comes in because you're like, I don't, why would that be part of what we're here to talk about, which is the Bible, and to pray for one another, and like, at what point are we, being sort of told who to vote for, or who to follow? And to me, that's where I'm more like, that's, where I'm trying to hit the brakes, and there's more concern around it.
Yeah. Yeah. Politics was a big one. I think that was like number 4 or number 5. Number 4 and 5 were, as far as like the reason people gave for why they don't go to church anymore. Because that was the question. That's the question. Why do you not go to church? And I don't know how many responses I got in total. I did mention that like it usually wasn't just one of the responses. Like somebody told me like I stopped going to church because of number 2, 5, 9, and 11.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like a combination of things. For most people, it's a combination of things.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like death by a thousand cuts.
Yeah.
Unless it was some big traumatic event, like I feel like for a lot of people, it's like, well, I,
Yeah.
felt ostracized, or it was really exclusive feeling, and
Yeah.
you want to, like, I don't know. I've been to churches too where it almost feels like a popularity contest. It almost feels like you're back in high school, where you're like,
Yeah.
where's the like cool like 4 families that are kind of the like core center of the church that you're trying to like buddy up with and be part of? And I mean, I definitely have like been susceptible to feeling like, you know I want to be part of the cool group.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like especially like in like youth group era, like that's the thing. It is
Oh yeah, for
the
sure.
popularity contest and who's the coolest and the best at guitar or whatever it is. That's how you kind of win youth group. You're like
Right.
athletic and musical and cool.
But even as like young adults, I mean, honestly, even like, when I'm meeting, like when Brooke and I moved to Portland, and we were living in this city that, like, on the surface, living in Portland, Oregon, it's definitely, as far as the size of the city, like there's not like a very like big church presence there. Like we ended up finding a church that was decently sized. It's called Imago Dei. Rick McKinley was the head pastor at the time. He might still be, I don't know, but like, very like on the surface, like just, and probably beyond the surface, like very like caring, loving church. They did a lot of work to do a lot of the same things, like the missionary, support and that kind of thing. But like, even with that, I felt like there was still this like kind of, I don't know, like there was this almost like unsaid pressure to like sound like very, like as you're quoting scripture, or like talking about like different ways that you like understand God's word. It was almost this pressure to like sound like you're giving a TED talk in the way that you're like interpreting, something. And I'm like, I don't know. Everything kind of feels like you have to be like super cool to do this.
Yeah. And it does come down to, it does almost get competitive, which is
Yeah.
in my wheelhouse. Like I'm a pretty competitive guy, as you know. But I remember when we were like 7, you would get so much praise for how good of a prayer you were. Do you remember that?
I, dude,
Do you remember that or
I am
no?
like still to this day just so embarrassed
But
of my like absurd prayers at your family's house.
no, it was like everybody was amazed by how well you prayed. Do you not remember that? That was
Well, like I think it was more like if you saw like a chimpanzee play the piano, like that was the level of amazement. Was like, look at that little guy, like use big, weird, dumb words for like an hour and a half
no,
before
man.
we eat dinner.
That wasn't it. It was so heartfelt and so well worded. Like you had that, and I remember feeling like I remember feeling like I got to get better at this. Not to like know the Lord more. It was like to win
Yeah.
or to catch up to you. I got the impression that I was in second place, and I don't like second place. I got to
That's
win.
hilarious. Like, did you really feel like Gabe's winning at prayer?
I felt like I need to get better because not because you were winning, but it was it was pretty clear in our circle that like man, we should have Gabe pray. He's so good. He's such a good prayer.
Man, that's awesome.
I was like, I got to step up my game. I want to lose. I want to.
I'm sure you know it's like it's like because obviously like I'm thinking about like my mindset in those moments, and I'm sure like part of me felt guilty about trying to sort of like showboat my prayer, but then obviously there was like another part of me that was like wanting to impress everybody with like my whatever, like just this flowery speech to God in front of everybody.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, there's definitely like ego there.
Yeah.
Like I could have just been like, God, you're great. Thank you so much. We love you. Amen.
Yeah. And you wouldn't. You would just be like, you're so.
No, I would go on and on like just a pastor from like the Pilgrim times.
Yes, it was fantastic.
Oh man.
I missed it. The glare is pretty for real. Somebody gave me the glare right here. Somebody asked me what took a jab at me because I usually do the videos outside. When I make videos for Instagram, I do them outside and I have a hat on. And somebody was like, you always wear, somebody said something like you always wear a hat because you're bald. Like I was ashamed. And I remember telling you and Ken why I wear a hat every time. It's because I don't ever like trim. I don't ever do like a razor on my head ever because it's just too much work. And
Yeah.
so I still
I
have,
would, I would worry about
these like
that.
three guys. I still have these three guys up here that are like hanging on for dear life. And they're kind of long.
And they sort of like turn into like an anglerfish. Do you feel like it just sort of like
It seems like they're fighting with each other. They're
that's
just
so funny.
they're dancing around. And if I do a video with no hat on, I don't think that even you, who knows me well, would be able to listen to what I'm talking about. I think you would see the hairs and be like, well, "Look, what's going on there?"
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I got in the routine of wearing a hat for that reason.
That's so great, man.
But now we're inside because it's 150 degrees where I live.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat, dude. I wear a hat every time I'm outside. I'm not gonna have my head cooked. I don't care.
No, I've had a sunburn on my head before. It is a different level of painful. And obviously, every time you get in the shower, like you can't,
Oh, I
it's
know. It's the
brutal.
only enjoyable part of life is the shower.
Um, uh, Katie at one point said she was writing down some notes. I think there's a post with all 13 reasons that I gathered. Number 4 was politics. Number 3 was, and I can share them all. Number 3 was I don't know. Again, that's not a very fun. That's not a very fun one. Number 2 was church hurt, and number 1 is because Christians are hateful and judgmental. Was the number 1 reason. 41 people. 31 people said because of church hurt or trauma or abuse, but there was 31 folks that gave that as their primary reason. So like I said, people often have more than one reason, but
Yeah.
kind of try to clarify like what made you be out? What was the thing? And if they were like, it was because of something kind of under the umbrella of church hurt, I kind of characterized them as church hurt. So, buddy, you need to get some sleep, I bet.
Yeah, I may drop
Thanks
off
for
here.
doing this. Thanks for doing this. Real quick, I want to tell you my COVID moment, like your COVID moment.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mine was sort of longer, but it's kind of politics, like 10 or whatever years ago. I was very ingrained in me that character matters in a leader, like a president. And I remember because I was like, we were like 17 or 18 or something. We were coming up, and this was the year 2000, right? When we graduated from high school.
Yep.
And so it was the first time we could vote, right? It was in the 2000 election. And it was also coming off like the Clinton scandal. And,
Yeah, we both would have been 18 right then. You're right. Yeah.
and so we were watching, and the way it was kind of presented to me, at least, was Clinton lacked kind of character, like moral
Yeah.
character. And then, they pointed to all that happened with his time in the White House. And they were like, that is deplorable. And we can't have somebody like that as president because character in a president matters.
Big time.
So that was like ingrained in me. I was like, message received, character matters in a leader. And then we got to like Obama, and I was like, he seems like he has great character too, right? Just the one wife and the daughters that he seems to love, and he's checking all the boxes, right? Good character. And they're like, no, he's terrible. Was kind of the conservative stance. And I was just like, I don't understand why he's terrible. It seems like his character is great.
Like impeccable. Yeah.
And they were like, no, his character is terrible for some reason. I was like, I don't understand. I understood with the Clinton thing. Like, I get it. Like, you were able to sell me on that. And then we get to the next guy. And I'm like, I don't understand. I got lied to. Character is not important at all in a leader, apparently. Like the audio from that bus. And like,
oh my gosh.
In like 2015 or 2016, I was like, oh, okay, I know the response here. This is a no. This is a hard no because character is so important in a leader. And the conservative world that I kind of came up in was just like, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
sometimes you have to just kind of like, take one for the team and,
And it was kind of, I think it was like a quick, hard pivot to like, God can use even the most deplorable person. And I'm like, I don't know that I disagree with that, but I'm kind of like, then you can't sell me on the character.
Matters. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk again, buddy. I love you.
Love you, man. Thanks for the chat. This is a fun way to connect and just, see some folks jump on here. But yeah, man, great to chat with you. And thanks for letting me be off camera since I'm in bed like a goblin.
Yeah, I love it. Let's do it again. This is so fun for me. So thank you. You're a good friend. I have more to explain. But
That sounds fun.
the short answer is, the more you think about this, we do three things, right? We read a book of the Bible each month, we pray for each other, and we do something to help the poor. That's all this church does. And the longer you stay in, the more that will make sense, because there's reasons behind all that. Like, why are we reading a book of the Bible every month? Well, because biblical literacy is an act of political resistance. It's essential. Yeah. It's essential to get out of this mess, and we need to be biblically literate for when folks try to tell us that empathy is a sin. We need to be able to know better. I think you can sell that message because no one knows any better, or not enough people know any better.
That's awesome. I love that, man.
I think, yeah, praying for each other and doing something to help the poor is it. But it will make more sense as time goes on. And I'm going to keep at it because I got nothing else to do. Now I'm in it. Now I feel like, all right, I can't pass this off to someone else.
I love it, man.
I love you, buddy.
Love you, dude. It's good to chat with you.
Send my love to Brooke.
Will do. Same for you guys. Talk to you soon.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
I guess I can stick around. Thank you, guys. I don't know if anyone else is going to jump. If anyone else has a question or anything, I'll stay for a minute. I don't know how you do it. Request a guest. Come ask a question. Accept.
Hey, so what are we talking about tonight?
We got a lot of, whatever you'd like.
Whatever I'd like.
Yeah, if it helps you, we're a church that that we felt we needed that needed to be created for people who stopped going to church.
And so your church is for people who left the church.
Yeah, that's it.
Interesting. What do y'all like align with?
It's a good question. We are a Christian church. And that's about as divisive as we get. In fact, I think agnostic and atheist people would enjoy this church because all we do in this church is do stuff to help the poor.
Really? That actually sounds pretty dope.
Yeah, and I will never ask for money. In fact, I vehemently oppose. I never sell any merchandise. I'll never. Hey, contribute now, or
Well, hey, that's actually pretty respectful. I mostly troll people on here, but you're doing more than most people, so I won't do that to you tonight.
yeah. I mean, I can handle it. There he goes. Good feedback. I welcome the trolls. How do you encourage troll? Oh, it's here. Here we go. Oh no, that says invite. It's different if it says to invite. Oh, thanks, Susan. Talk to you later. Good night. I'll stay on for a couple more minutes if somebody has a question. What are we doing and why? Or share their story. Share their thoughts on church or share their thoughts on why we're doing it wrong. Well, there's comments. Sorry I missed all the comments. All right, we'll call it a night. It says, please stay there as 3 viewers. How do I see the viewers? Oh, Bridget. Is that Bridget Harrington? She probably don't want to. You look like Bridget Harrington. Easy day. All right.